Joe Orth and I are starting a podcast. What should we call it?
Hey, don't pick on me. You know why? Because this is why. Let's see what he says.
The Joe Show?
Give Joe the business?
That's right.
Cup of Joe.
Cup of Joe.
What is happening here?
Would you listen?
We'll give you a chance.
Thank you.
That's Joe.
That's Rooster.
And this is the Together We Shall podcast, episode 47. Well, that's a real fun, odd, weird number. You don't like 47 at all, do you?
I don't like it because it's odd. But then I'm like, usually I can try to find like 45 or Rudy, but like 47? Like instantly I just go through like sports figure numbers. And I'm like, nothing, 47. Say that was the year my dad was born. That was not the year he was born.
So anyway, my
47.
my point is that 47 brings nothing to my mind, but I'm convinced after the next hour that 47 will hold this special bookmark in my mind about that day that we had a conversation with our friend. And
You can do it.
what?
It will,
What?
because our friend is special. But 7 plus 4 is 11, and Ainsley's Angels was formed in 2011.
Okay, that's cool.
It's a
but
reach.
that's
It's a
lot.
reach. It's a reach. But
How about this? Let's spend the next hour redefining 47. Let's do that. And so, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, after a good little while of asking her and inviting her and making her know that she was welcomed, I introduce my friend, Dr. Camille Minor. Hello, Camille.
Thank you. Hello. And I am so glad that I am finally able to come here in our virtual living room with the two of you. So yeah, thank you,
Yeah.
Rooster. Thank you, Joe.
We're excited. We always start our episodes off with asking the question, where are you physically located and why do you think you're a guest on the Together We Shall podcast?
I'm physically located in Northwest Louisiana, specifically Shreveport, Louisiana. And why do I think I'm a guest? Well, I think I'm a guest, one, because you love me. And our friendship was created through a beautiful organization that I still work for currently, which is the Travis Manion Foundation. And later on, I get to sit on the board of another beautiful organization, which is Ainsley's Angels of America. And I think it was just time. So thank you. I hope that's the reason,
Yeah, that you nailed it. It was all embedded in that beautiful answer, and it's so much to unpack just out of your answer, and we're going to do that. Trust that we're going to do that. As you alluded to, you are a board member on the Ainsley's Angels of America National Board, and we're grateful to have you. And the relationship that we started a couple years back, we'll get to that, but I want to also say that some of the reasons that I wanted to bring you on is because of really this.
there it goes. Rooster has frozen.
Yeah,
There it
We got to
is.
play we got to do some music or something. We had one of our guests one time. PJ's our the investor in Southeast Michigan. His computer had like the loudest fan, so randomly it would just go. It was like Rooster called it the purge noise, so that was crazy.
You bet.
But like when Rooster freezes, we just gotta like. I don't know,
We're just going to go.
make some sound.
yeah. So the beauty. See, the thing, yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna have a blast editing this one out. Thank you. So listeners, if I go into some weird, tunnel or freeze up completely, it's got everything to do with the fact that I am on borrowed Wi-Fi. But that's got nothing to do with what I want to talk about. What I was trying to get to is that Camille has this really positive, infectious, good vibe every time I'm around her. And I thought that, we should bring some of that to the show. So that is another element, Camille. And this is too fast to go where I'm trying to go, so we're going to come back to this later. But no one can be 100% good vibes, positive, upbeat, 24 hours a day. And the reason that I'm making a point of this is that I used to think that if I wasn't that then I was failing myself and others.
Mhm.
And so I really want to explore your thoughts on that topic. That's why you're on the show, in addition to all the other things. But, let's get to there. So, a woman who has surrounded, or let me say, a woman who has dedicated her life really to education and to service and to building communities and bridging gaps and so many other little things that Camille reminds me of. But take us back. Like at some point, you entered the world. So let's get some context.
Oh, I entered the world. Yeah. Are we going all the way back to birth here, Rooster? What's happening here?
Man, I don't know. Just
I came into this world, almost 44 years ago, and gosh, the things that have happened since entering just adulthood, I'd say. I never thought that that's where I would land or who I would be. I never thought I'd be an educator. And when that happened in 2008, I embraced it for the beautiful gift that it is, and was for me during those 12 years. Never someone who likes to sit and not learn. I decided to go back to school for another graduate degree. And in this case, it was a doctorate of education. And again, you have a plan to do this degree and knock it out and keep teaching and keep doing that. And then something else comes up that you never thought would happen, which in this case was the Travis Manion Foundation and the Spartan Leadership Program that they were in the talks and works of getting off the ground. And I just fell from one love of students and, teachers as well, to adults, and not just adults, but adults that have a very special place in my heart, because veterans, families of the fallen, my history with the military is not that I've ever joined any branch, but my father served for 30 years. So I'm a military brat. And with being a military brat comes all the stations and all the movements and all the new friendships and all the connections that are, built, ripped apart, built, ripped apart. And I had kind of lost that community since I moved here in 2001, but reconnecting with it through the organization, through the program, and with you, that's been great. On a personal note, that's professional, but personally, I'm a mom of a 25-year-old daughter who has done nothing but made me super, super proud, and still is each and every day. Empty nester, which is in itself a lot to talk about on its own. But yeah, that's just a little bit of me. And as far as, I'm going to go back to your original question, which was, hey, how can you, no one can be 100% positive, happy all the time. And even though every time you see me or I greet you or we talk, that infectiousness is there, it's authentic, it's never forced. But I think you, of all people too, can appreciate the fact that I've also been very authentic when it's not a good day for me. We've had conversations about sad moments, long time periods of grief that have been going through. And that kind of brings us to why it took me a while to get on here, because, you and Joe reached out last year, and totally appreciate the reach out, but I was not in a healthy, happy space to sit and be authentically like that balance of who I am. It would have been just, I think, total sadness. And not because that's who I am, but that's because of what I was going through. It was taking a lot for me to stay focused on daily life, personal and professional goals and objectives to get through some things. And so I chose me, which I'm always priority. If I'm not good, then I can't take care of my family, and I can't take care of the people under that, whether it's friends or people at work. You can't do it. And so the priority was me last year. And although I was able to function and get through the normal things, work, life, but I chose me. I chose me to say no to a lot of things, because a year ago, before that happened, I would have said yes, because I'm ready. Put up, put another basket on this arm and another hat on this head, and let's roll. But I said no, and I chose me, and it's a positive, because choosing me for that year, and not that I don't choose myself now, but choosing me for that full solid year allowed me to be in the space I'm in now, which allowed me, when you reached out a month ago, to say, hey, ain't no pressure. And I'm like, no, I'm actually I feel good. And I feel good. But I also give the energy that people give to me. And I'm thankful that every time I interact with most of my, friends, family, work, you guys, when I see you, there's a smile on your face. There's an open arms for a hug. And so what does that do? That just bounces right into my spirit. I'm like, yeah, bring it in.
That was wonderful. Go ahead, Joe.
Good, thanks. It's me.
Didn't even know if Rooster was here.
I didn't either. He was frozen for a minute. So I was like, I think Joe's gonna just come in and do his thing.
We'll say it took you 42 years to realize, right, that you have to put you first. It's the airplane analogy. Put your mask on before you can help others. Mm-hmm. And that gives me hope, being, a little bit shy of 42, because I haven't figured that out yet. It's definitely something that I struggle with personally and professionally. I talked to a wide range of folks about it, of how to put me first and say no to some things, because I have to focus on myself. So it's, it's always good to hear that I'm not alone, never feel that way, but it's good to hear from people in, your circle that they have experienced or are experiencing the same thing. Because you hear about it on, a podcast with essentially a stranger, or a movie or whatever. And you're like, but I want to relate to like a normal person,
Right.
not the celebrity that's talking about it. Like you are far from normal person.
Yeah, not that infomercial. Like, listen, there's a chef in your kitchen waiting for you. Like, I need real life.
Exactly. It's funny, the chef thing, because that's when I don't want to say struggle with it or realize it. My family realized it the most is at dinner time, because cooking, cleaning, helping do all that homework, all that stuff's done. Everyone's there, and I have to make sure that kids fed, wife's, she's got whatever she needs, dog's good, and then it's all right, I can feed, but then I feel it creates a gap or a distant thing, because sometimes by the time I get to that, everyone else is done. It's all right,
Yes.
we lose that dinner vibe, and I don't really need to be that guy that we all sit down at the table and hold hands, but it's just it would be nice from time to time to do that, but I just feel like I have to ensure, Rooster knows it's the military thing, right? Leaders eat last. I have to make sure that they all eat, and then I'll get what's left. Hopefully there is some. But,
They
not
love
saying
you. They'll leave you a little something.
not saying I should eat first and then eat it all, but yeah, it's just I'm like I said, as that clock's gonna turn to a 4 in it here soon. I'm glad to know that there's no real race. It has to happen naturally.
Absolutely.
And it did for you. So I'm glad to hear that.
Thank you, Joe.
Or just seeing how Joe responded after listening to you share. I mean, that is one more beautiful thing about you, about how you have this ability to authentically share and then make others feel safe and comfortable sharing as well. And you also kind of sound like you used a framework that you taught me through the Spartan Leadership Program, which has a framework of develop, connect and challenge, serve, and then legacy. And you practiced what you preached. You took develop and you focused on Camille. And then you came up on this podcast, and by showing us how you develop just through a few words, you essentially connected and challenged Joe to do a little reflection. And in 47 episodes, that's the longest he's ever spoken. Now, maybe that's because
you were on mute.
You were gone. That's why.
So a little humor.
It's funny you say that, because I'm trying to suppress some of the facilitator and in me, but I was like, I want to be like, yo, Joe, so let's chop this up, a little bit more. And I was like, nope, you hold back. What I will say though, without going into all the things I could say, is practice it, practice it for 5 minutes a week, and then move into 2 days a week for 5 minutes each. Practice it.
Yeah. So my December 16th is my birthday. So December 16th, we're in 24. So 22, I got an ice bucket so I can do cold therapy. And that's my time. That's my couple minutes a day of where it's like, please, nobody notice I'm out here. This is my time. Like, I close all the blinds so nobody can see me out there. It's just like, and it's starting for sure to expand from that, but it's a marathon, and I'm pulling up the rear for sure on this race.
That's okay. At least you're pulling.
So what were some of those things, Camille, that over the past year that perhaps you were able to really lean into that helped you develop? I mean, you offered to Joe, try it, practice, do it. Like what? Anything?
So I'm going to speak specifically just because of what happened with losing a friend suddenly, who was a very important person in my life for over 20 years. And so I'm going to use what I did for that to get through that, to make sure I was okay, to make sure I was healthy, to make sure I was able to function. The first thing was honesty. A lot of us, we use the word authentic and vulnerability, all these things. We throw these words out, and that's great, but I wasn't scared or hesitant to share my story. I wasn't hesitant to, hold back what I was actually feeling. And for example, like I said, Rooster, we've talked, you knew how I was feeling. I shared a little bit of that story about who he was to me. I cry. It didn't matter what time of the day, I cried. If it was on a call with my own boss, who was so beautiful in allowing me to, work through however I was feeling in the midst of my day or my morning with her. And it wasn't intended to just throw all that on her, but if it hit me, I cried, and she was okay with that. I live alone. I told you I'm an empty nester, so sometimes I cuss him out for leaving, and I laughed through it because the humor that he and I both shared as well. So those were things that I did to move through my day. But a really big thing for me, on top of all those little drops, being able to talk about them, crying, sharing my feelings, was a digital diary. I talked to you all in the program about journaling, and I don't tell myself I'm any better. So yes, while I do journal, a digital diary helped me because I needed to talk through a lot of the way I was feeling. And so I used basically my phone in notes, hit the record and just talked, whether it was a happy memory. Sometimes I would talk about how I was actually feeling in that rawness. And I did it for a couple of reasons. One, because it's healthy, to let those things out however they need to come out and play. But I also did it because I wanted to be able to go back later and remember that, as sad as I might feel 6 months or a year or 3 years from now, that really the grief, it's still the same size, but I'm able to do what? I'm growing around it. So it's a memory that you need, but a memory to also help you understand your growth. So those are some of the things. I mean, I could probably give you a laundry list of others, but those are the key things that afforded me, just a year of reprieve, figuring it out. And my family,
I mean, you talk about,
no judgment.
Yeah, not having any judgment from your family is a absolute critical part of it, because you have to feel safe being honest with yourself and with them. And this exploring the realm of emotion, whether you're crying or cursing and everything in between. But then what I thought was really beautiful is documenting it.
I've tried the journaling / habit tracker, and that habit tracker, can do, my journal has it somewhere. And the cool thing about my journal is It's the best journal ever. That's the company.
That's the title.
But it's based around 30, 60, and 90-day periods. So
Mhm.
it forces you, as you turn the page from day 29 to 30, it says, stop, go, look. And but I was making it things that were just, you could do mindlessly, if you would. Like, it wasn't like express emotion or
Right.
cry, or
It was like
it was
eating,
just,
things that you're going to do regardless,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right. So I took February off because January was a long one.
Mm.
But just like in trying to figure out, where does March look in that process of
Mhm.
not just the habits, and maybe I don't do that for March, and just
Mhm.
focus on the, like, I guess it's the raw emotion, right? Like,
Yes.
write down what matters. Don't write down what, like,
Yes.
the book wants to see, type of thing. Write down what I want to put down.
Are you in my brain, Joe? You're in my brain.
Could be. I don't know.
Because if you didn't say that, I was going to tell you, like, I get it. And I'm not going to knock the journals that have guiding you or the habits, but I was going to literally encourage you to say, how about just writing? No
Yeah.
topic, no subject matter, just waking up or middle of the day or end of the day, whatever works for your schedule, and writing whatever comes to the paper. Just write. If you write for 3
Yeah.
minutes, great. If you write for 20, fabulous. You write for 40, fantastic. But if you only write for 3, then you wrote and you flip the page and you
Yeah.
write again tomorrow. Try that for March.
I'm going to write that down.
Yeah, that's great advice. The weekly word process was 176 words over the course of 8 years. And it's when I was hit by the word, I would talk about it for 2 or 3 minutes. And in doing that, it helped me just kind of exhale it. And then I documented it, and it was gone and it was done, but I was able to get it out there. And then, like you said earlier, Camille, I could always revisit it because it's on the internet. Just search weekly word, Ainsley's Angels. It's there forever. And there's been times where I didn't realize it, but I've been able to actually refer people to some of those episodes when they've been in moments, and it's helped them kind of have their own. So there is something there. What is that? It's through your own development. You're able to kind of connect and challenge, like you said a minute ago, but then not even realizing it, you can serve others. Yeah, it's pretty amazing how it works. Like, you have had an opportunity since you have began directing the Spartan Leadership Program to come in contact with over 60.
Everybody, weekly word.
What just happened?
I was gonna ask you a question, but then, like, I don't know if you're there or not. I hear you, but I don't see you. It's messing. My mind is like not able to handle this. So when you said exhale, I was like, I think that was a weekly word. I was like, I feel like it was a weekly word. If not, it should have been a weekly word. But now I'm like, now I got to know. So I went to YouTube. Of course, it wasn't muted. So I just ruined everything. But if exhale was a weekly word, I can close that tab.
You didn't ruin everything. We knew what you were doing.
I had to know.
It's we have to have levity. These are deep topics we're talking about. We're talking about really deeply visiting places in our souls, and then talking about it publicly. I mean, this podcast is going to be published, and people are going to hear this stuff. And so you got to have some levity and bring some humor, which brings me kind of what I was going to ask you about, Camille. I mean, your program highly leverages values in action and the 24 character strengths that we all have within us.
Yeah.
Do you have any stories that might be fun to share about being a facilitator with the Spartan Leadership Program, and maybe how some of the things we just talked about maybe showed up in a moment where you unexpected it, or maybe where it was so beautiful? Like, is anything coming to mind? And obviously we're not going to share people's names, but just curious.
So to date, we actually have 104 graduates of the Spartan Leadership Program that are a mix of family of the fallen and veterans, and or both. So that's a great thing from cohorts 1 through 5 since its inception in 2020. But as far as stories, I mean, because you went through the program, but we keep it nice and tight in this box, and nobody gets to come in unless we invite them in, to listen in on the conversations. I know there was one specific story. We were talking about resiliency. We were talking about what that means to us, and how do we enact it, and what do we do, and just all the things that come from that one word that we can expound on. And someone brought up, how they didn't believe that this example was resiliency because they were living in America as a person of color. And they were like, why would anybody do all these other things when, like, I live resiliency every day, And it was a perfect moment because, one, I'm a person of color, and I'm sitting there listening, and I hear them, and I said, yeah, but everybody's definition of resiliency and how they are impacted by it, or how they overcome and or adapt to it, looks different. So while we may experience the need to adapt and overcome hard times on a daily, weekly basis, somebody else who doesn't have that based on their privilege needs to go out and find ways to see that they can bounce back. They can do this. They can do the tough things. They're okay. They can overcome. They can adapt to that, hard hike, or, that difficult challenge that they decided to invest in. And it was great because he had a moment of, he'd been looking at it on one side of the glass, which was a perspective as a Black person in America. And although I was giving him that perspective, I was showing him another side of it. And it's important that that's what we do when it comes to all aspects of our walk in life, the diversity, the inclusivity. If we can just take a moment and a breath and a beat to think to ourselves, but what is it like for that person? Doesn't mean you're going to really fully understand, but will you take a moment to try? And I think that is our first step in general with life, and how we can figure out how to come together in a lot of areas where we think we're different. So that's one story. That's that's pretty serious, but we have a good time on those sessions. We cut up, we cut up sometimes in our good sessions.
Thank you for that story. And that's just one of over 100 different persons that you've had an opportunity to kind of dance with and give them an opportunity to look at things. Our previous episode that we just launched, 46, we talked with Alexa about like labels and identities, and how sometimes we can allow a specific element of ourselves to like identify us forever. And so not only is it the example you gave about this individual's walk through America as a person of color, but you gave them an opportunity to be challenged by some other identity element, like being able to or not succeed in a journey or a hike or something physical. I think that's really, really important. Joe?
The Alexa correlation between Alexa and Camille was not planned. So if you're listening to this, make sure you also go back and listen to the previous episode with Alexa. And it's just really neat to, in that situation, like to put those together, I guess unintentionally, but it just shows the importance of that. And I think, like you said, having someone, whether it's a family member, a friend, a coworker, a stranger, at some point, sitting on an airplane, to remind you to look at it from the other side of the glass, as you put it, is key.
Absolutely.
And for your awareness, Camille, I mean, Alexa talked about she was a survivor of childhood cancer, and her parents never put her in a box of, here's the cancer kid. So she didn't even talk about her cancer publicly until college, because she didn't identify that. And she just talked about how grateful she was ever been given a label that just based on an event in her life.
I can relate to that in so many different ways, because although, I'm going to bring up the fact, yes, I'm a Black woman in America. And that was never, not highlighted in my house. It was obvious. But what my parents did so well through living in that home, being raised with 3 other siblings, was that they didn't focus that on a reason why I might not be able to get into a room. Or, their goal was that, hey, we're setting some things and some parameters, and we're trying to do the best we know from where we came from, which wasn't a lot. They didn't have a lot. They were poor, to set the parameters for our kids to be greater than what we are. And so I'm not oblivious to the fact that, certain things exist that maybe nobody wants me in that room, but I don't have the feeling ever that I don't belong in the room because of what they instilled in me. And that's the powerful part. And I think that's for anybody, whether they have a disability, a cancer diagnosis, some form of disease, whether it's, here or there, invisible or visible disability, like, you belong in the room. You belong in whatever room that you want to be in, whatever that box looks like, whatever that building looks like, whatever that field looks like. We all belong in there, and we shouldn't ever think to ourselves, because of how we look, because of what we have, because of how we were born, it should keep us out of the room. We belong in the room.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Ainsley's Angels mission statement has the word belonging in it.
Yeah.
And as a board member that has, helped us define and certify this new mission statement, like, what are some things that you have witnessed in your journey that has made belonging possible? How do you make someone feel like they belong? And the answer is just, well, you just love them. Well, you love them. No. What do you do?
You love them, but you listen to them. I think that's key, is you listen to them and you get to know them on whatever, wherever they want to meet you. And, when you talk about those experiences of belonging and what my parents did, they did that on a level of being at home and talking to us and teaching us, just as parents do. But I was built for it because I was a kid of a Marine born into this life, that I didn't realize how important the experiences were for me now. All I saw growing up, which most kids do, is I have to move again. These are all my best friends. You have a set of best friends everywhere you go. It's just, your heart breaks. But my last 4 years in high school were very difficult in regards to being a military kid. I did 4 different schools in 3 different states. And, you always have this thought process as an young adult, that you just want to graduate from the same school that you went to for at least 2 or 3 years. And I didn't get that. I was in Florida for an 8th grade, 9th grade center where I did 9th grade, stayed in Florida for 10th grade, but it was at a high school that was 10 through 12, moved to Rhode Island because it was time to go to the War College for my father for a year for 11th grade, and then landed back at Camp Lejeune, which it's full circle because I actually started kindergarten there at Stone Street Elementary, but I graduated from Lejeune High. But that life of movement definitely taught me a sense of how to make others feel belong, because there's so many days that I could have walked into a cafeteria and sat alone, but someone, whether it was one individual or 2, looked at me like, yeah, you can sit here. They don't know you, but you can sit here, and it's beautiful because those connections, those small little connections from middle school, I'll say on, I'm still in touch with quite a few of those friends, and have had brunch, I should say, a couple years ago when I was in Houston with middle school friends that I went to school with for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. My best friend, who I met in Florida that 9th and 10th grade year, actually lives in Shreveport now. And funny story, she ends up marrying my brother, and they have a son together.
Bro, this is
Yeah.
I love this. What I kept hearing, Camille, and gosh, just a perfect testimonial to speak to the power of allyship. That when you went into the room and somebody said, yes, you can sit here, they showed up and made space for you and made you feel comfortable and welcomed you. And then look at you today. I mean, today, because of these formative events in your life, you are able to then create space for other people to go to the depths of their within and their being and talk about things that are beautiful.
Good.
So my dad had similar stories, right, about following, his dad to 3 Marines, right, around. But like my wife was like the complete opposite. She went through pre-K through 8th grade at the same school, and then 9 through 12. All Catholic schools. Like, she never rode a bus to school. I'm like, you're missing out. I was like, that was better than school for me. Like, you never rode a bus to school. That's mind-boggling me. But I'm curious, as you culminated your first educational journey, right, and graduating high school, doing that and spending your senior year on base with, we'll say, other students that had probably very similar experiences of it's my
Mhm.
senior year and I was, here or there or whatever for the last three. How was that? Was that like a good like icing on the cake, a cherry on top type of thing?
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up because I went from most of the schools I went through, 9th, 10th, and 11th, were 300 plus that I should have graduated with. And then I land on a military base, a Marine Corps base at that, which is great. And like I said, full circle. But these schools are on the base, so all these kids are like me. They get it. And similar to what you said about your wife, there were some that had been on Camp Lejeune, since they're never leaving. Whatever their father did, they needed them, and there was no need to transfer or move or be put somewhere else. Whereas then there was that group where, yeah, I've lived in, or I was born in Germany, they're like, oh, okay, cool. So I think absolutely the first day of school there, senior year, no one batted an eye, like, who's that new senior? Because there were only 76, 77 of us. That's it, I think. Less than 100 for sure. Very small graduating class. And that means the school was small. And so if you think about it, I was friends with the seniors, the juniors, and some of the sophomores, not so much the freshmen, but we were all, it was tiny, we could all fit in the cafeteria during one lunch session. It was not a big school, but it was big enough for us. I'd say that was wonderful. What I did deal with, at least on that base, was just I don't want to use the word shame, but I never would tell people specifically like my father's name or whatever, like, because he was an officer, but there weren't many officers in the military that were Black, at least stationed where we were, that I saw, that had command positions and command posts. And I didn't want kids to see me differently who actually understood what their parents put into them as being different, because I didn't feel it was different. I needed people to see that Camille, what would be referred to as the officer's kid, was no different than the Camille who could have been an enlisted kid's parent. You know what I mean? And it was beautiful because I got to show them that for, let's say, a few months. You can't keep it a secret for long. Eventually, hey, come over to the house. They're like, oh, you're over here? It's like, yeah, I live over here. But it's beautiful because when they know you and you've been yourself for those 2 to 3, 4 months or whatever, and then they find out, it's like, oh, it's no big deal. And it's also a way to disarm them, because then they got to meet, my parents and my dad as my dad, and not the big bad guy that maybe their parents told them, don't do anything around, Colonel Minor or so-and-so, and so that was great. It's like I got to disarm them and at the same time make friends that maybe would not have necessarily embraced me right away if they knew that.
That's good that you definitely wanted to see them for you,
Yeah.
for Camille, not for Colonel Minor's daughter.
That's it.
It connects back into the fact that you were not allowing a label colonel's daughter. For our listeners that don't know what that means, Camille's dad's next promotion would have been to general, like flag officer rank. So there is a stigma or a separation between officers' kids and enlisted kids, and that's an unfortunate thing. But I love that you shared that with us, Camille, because it speaks to the heart of how you've navigated and how you've overcome any barrier. You didn't see the barrier. What you saw was an opportunity to lead with your heart and to be who you are, and for yourself to not be a labelized person. And that is, gosh, I never knew that part. So
yeah,
thank you.
That's what this podcast does, though, because like I said, we're sitting on the couch, in separate rooms, but it just lets you talk about things that just come up and not a secret, but I just knew what it was. And we could talk about, like you said, the labels. The base does a great job of kind of doing that, because they throw one group over here and they put the other group in this house. So they immediately make it like, look, you're there and here. And it really doesn't matter. For me as a kid, I should say, I can't speak on the level of being as a Marine, but it didn't matter for me. I just wanted friends. And I didn't care whether your dad was, an E this or O that. I didn't care. I just, You like me? I like you
Yes.
too. Cool. Let's go
Yeah.
to the movies this weekend, right? You have a car? Okay, well, I don't have one, but pick me up. Great.
Yeah. And that ultimately transcends through all
Yeah.
other labels in life. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, that's wow. Well shared. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I only hope that as people are listening to this, they realize that I'm really in the conversation the whole time, and that I'm hearing every single. My Wi-Fi listeners, I'm
is
here,
the one
friends.
episode that like I would promote people to actually watch, because just the in and out is is comical. Because also when you turn off your camera, at least for me, like right now, you are a third, right? You and I are the same, but when you turn it off, you go to like a column.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes,
And
I'm
gray.
like, what? And yeah, so that's why I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't know. And your profile picture is just the logo, so I'm like, I don't know if he's really here or not.
Yeah. There was that moment
So
when
listeners,
we were like, and I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's where he finished. Yeah.
well, I'll tell you, man. You really feel comfortable having a conversation with your friends when you don't even know if they're there or not, and you just yeah. So if you're watching this, it's probably annoying, but if you're listening, you're probably like, what are they talking about? And that's good. Joe likes that you listen to our podcast and not watch it on YouTube. But anyway, oh man,
This would be the one though. If you're gonna watch one,
Yeah,
watch this one.
it really would be.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Count how many
Uber.
times my eyes go down too. If you guys watched it, whoever's listening.
I need to know. There's got to be like, it's 2020. This is where we get on these rabbit holes, right? It's 2024. Like from the top of my screen to where my camera is, because it's an external camera, is only 2 inches. But I feel like if I look you in the eyes right now while I'm talking, and then look at the camera, so then I'm like, I'm in space. I'm like, that's it. He's gone.
So where are you looking right now?
Right
Who
now
are you
I'm
talking
looking.
to?
So right now I'm looking at your eyes like this, but
Okay.
from your eyes to the camera it's about the length of this pen.
Got
So for
you.
me to like look at the camera, Rocky sees something, to go back, I feel like it's out of the.
Well, because
They
when you
should
were
put
looking
the
down
person
at
in the
me,
center.
it looked like you were looking at me. That's why I was like, well, what are you looking at right now? Because see, right now I'm looking at you. I'm not looking at my camera. So does it look like I'm looking at you?
Yeah. So
Kind
in
of?
the end, 47 episodes later, I figure out you don't even have to look at the camera. Just look at
You
the
don't.
screen.
Yeah. Oh, I could have told you that. Oh yeah.
I panic. I'm like, man,
Yeah, no.
Well,
You do not have to look at the camera,
yeah.
but it is weird because you want to look at it and then you're like, but I'm really not looking at anybody.
it's got a light. It's like draws me to it. I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, while we're on a thoroughfare, a very, very deep dive off of and tangenting over into where your eyes are looking, let's go ahead and introduce Miller Time, something that we all just said, you know what, Rooster's not even here, so I'm going to drink my own beverage whenever I want. Miller Time's an opportunity for you to grab your favorite beverage and enjoy the rest of the show. Why do we even do that? Like, I don't know. Miller Time. Can we stop it?
I don't think you should.
I just work here, but I don't think we should either. And
Okay.
it's the Miller Time is just, that's what you grew up on, if you would, not like Miller Lite instead of bottles, but like that was the thing. Miller Time was like for, I don't know, talk about different like
Well, hang on.
not upbringings, but like I'd be the Clydesdale guy, like you're the Miller like guy.
But
But
wait,
it's
what
like it's the cheers, the salud, the ting ting,
Yeah.
whatever, all
What
the
did-
other languages, like
but
that's
what
all it
did-
is.
But what did Camille say? Did she say we should or we shouldn't?
No, I said
Keep
you
it.
should. You keep it. Yeah.
Okay.
I think
Ladies and gentlemen,
it's
let's
it's
be
a
clear.
segment too that people can look forward to. They know it's coming up. If they're telling their friend about to listen or watch, hey, make sure you have the drink where they're gonna have a Miller Time moment. And it's not about, drink a shot or a beer, but like whatever your choice of your beverage is. For me,
Yeah.
it's water because I'm working.
Yeah. 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 No, I'm working too. And seldom, that's a good point, because seldom is the beverage alcohol. I mean, I think in
like
one
3
episode,
times.
actually.
Maybe
Yeah.
3. Yeah.
So-
I was thinking.
We're not condoning the drinking of Miller Lite, but we also are saying that it's a free world. And if you want to have a Monster energy drink, I'm not going to judge you about all the sugar in there.
That's it. Drink it.
Yeah.
I mean,
because there's no
I
damn
drink
sugar.
a shake. I drank a shake
Meanwhile-
first, and then
Well, I
now
had one too. I had my shake
have my-
earlier. It's almost
and
done.
I got my.
Oh, come on with this tumbler. Come on.
So
Let me show you
Rooster-
this one. This
I
one's
saw
really
it. It's been
special
fancy.
because it has
No, can't see it.
a 5. Can you see the
Uh,
5?
yeah. Well, what's
Yeah.
the 5? Cohort?
Cohort got this for me. Deanna, really special lady in cohort 5, sent this and put that there's a 5, and I was like, the cohort that I ended on, C5.
It
We
well,
all
so,
gotta
oh,
get
man.
our
So I got
shakers.
two questions. But it's funny because Rooster put me on to Ice Shaker more than, I guess, TMF's a bonus, right? But
Mhm.
while we were sitting here, the doorbell rang, and it's a delivery from Ice Shaker. So I'm intrigued and excited. But I have a question because I don't know. How did you get connected with TMF?
Ha!
Mm.
That goes back. That's gonna bring us right here. It's gonna intersect into
Look at that.
to Lejeune. It's gonna intersect
Which
into
I just got to interrupt real fast and say,
yeah.
I loved Lejeune and how many intersections it has. I mean, Ainsley was born there. There's so many things about Camp Lejeune.
I'll be there tomorrow. Well, I won't be there
And look.
tomorrow. I don't know what day it is.
Today's Thursday, Joe. It's the
But
29th.
is it? See, is it there? Oh.
I forgot. You gotta cut that out. Oh, we don't know what day it is. Sorry. We don't know what day.
And Rooster's super frozen now.
He is
There,
frozen
dude.
down.
You were like,
So-
can you see me? You were frozen like this, like you were like
Yeah.
flexing.
You're like,
I,
now you're the gray blob. You're the gray bubble now.
I can hear everything though. Good gosh.
Well,
This is so fun. Camille, tell me about TMF. Good gosh.
So,
How'd you find it?
this is the intersection, and there's so many great intersections. Like you said, Ainsley was born there. Actually, my daughter was born there 25 years ago in 98. So almost 26 years ago. Gosh, she'll be 26 next month. Anyway, that's there.
Man.
But back to what I mentioned, how everywhere, since middle school for sure, I'm in touch with lots of friends, and we stay in touch, whether it's every 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, whatever, social media, all the things. And I was in touch with Janae, who is TMF's former CPO. And she just reached out and told me she was moving, and she had moved to Atlanta. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then we ended up hanging like a year later out. And I said, so what did you move here? She said, oh, this is a great organization. And she's telling me about it. And, at this point, I'm still not in the classroom, but I'm an educator for the parish that I live in. And I said, oh, that sounds really interesting. This character does matter. I'm just hearing a little bit about it. I said, keep me posted if you hear anything about, jobs or anything. It just sounded really great. It was an organization, like I said, that I could connect with, because not only on the education sphere, but from the military sphere of understanding that. And maybe, I don't know, a year and a half or so later, that's when she just hit me up. I was knee deep in trying to figure out how to write this dissertation. She's like, hey, got this great job, coming out. And I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, where are you at with your doctorate? When you're done? When are you going to be done? I was like, I don't know, like next year, 2020. I don't know. Oh, we're trying to get it going then. And I was like, I'm not in a position to, look for another job right now. I need to focus. And I said, but send me the job description. And I said, if anything, let me just do it. Let me look at it, see what it's about, and maybe apply. And I read it. And I mean, you guys, it was just speaking to me about, it's just that project. It was a project in my mind, an educational project. And of course, I didn't know what it would look like or how it would be. But in my head, I was like, this is so cool that they're trying to do this. This is, this is going to happen. And once again, long story short, I apply, I go through the interview process, and I'm going through it with all thoughts of, there's no way I'm getting this job. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with it because I have not had an interview in 12 years. So if anything, this is practice for when I finish that degree. Like, well, guess what? I got the job. And it has been, I say, sweet music for 4 years this month. And that is because of, one, the mission that the organization, what we believe in as an organization, and the mission and the values that we carry, and the support that I get from everyone above me and below. But it would not be, people always say, Camille, you did such a good job with the program. It would not be what it is today, though, without the support of Josh, Ryan, Lindsay, Amy, all these people that could see it before I was even there. And, we have Travis ultimately to thank for it, his sacrifice, because we wouldn't have this program that is connecting our veterans and our families of the fallen within communities, within one another, to build a legacy with the service and engage our youth and those future generations of character does matter without his sacrifice. So that's a lot of intersections, but all the good things.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, so many things, so many other intersections. I mean, Janae is the person who interviewed me when I also applied, thinking I'm not going to get accepted to this thing. I'm just going to apply. In fact, my application had one-line answers. It was just like, yeah, why do you want to apply to this? And I'm like, oh, because it's a good thing. And so I did it because it spoke to me as soon as I read about the program, the same way it spoke to you. And then when I applied and then, got the call for an interview in November of 20, the world was in a tailspin. It was a wild, wild time. And Janae pops up on the screen and interviews me, and one thing leads to another. And then I eventually meet you in Atlanta in 2021. And the timing could not have been any more better. Like, that's not good English, doctor, I know.
I'll take it. Any more better.
Man,
I'll
dude.
take it.
Like not only did I go through this journey of discovery and forgiveness, and then not only that element of it, but also it wasn't really until my TMF journey in Spartan Leadership Program in 2021 where I actually grieved my daughter's death 5 years prior. I mean, it took a sunrise somewhere in Tasha's backyard to see and feel and be moved to my core. And when you take families of the fallen, and you take veterans who are dealing with invisible disabilities, and you create such an amazing environment for people to share and to feel, magic happens. And I've often talked about magic being my active grieving instills courage, but it was active grieving every single day in that journey. And then my mom dies in October. And how do you, and then we graduate the program in November, and it's like, I meet, this positive psychologist person in person, she rolls up, and we basically grieved my mom's death that day. And I know that I've just taken everything you said and I turned it into my own journey. I know I did that. I'm owning it. I'm claiming
on
it.
purpose. It should be. This is back to that framework too. Back to that framework.
Yeah, it really is back to that framework. And speaking to that framework, speaking of that, where am I going with this? You said that without Travis Manion, we wouldn't have all these things. I will tell you that without Travis Manion, we would not have started the Ally Development Program in Ainsley's Angels. Like, when I asked you to come on the board and you thought about it you gave it a lot of serious professional thought for about 30 days. I mean, you prayed on it. You talked to your employers, you did all the things. I said, one of the reasons we want you to come on is because we see the Ally Development Program and its parallels to the Spartan Leadership Program. And so not only am I nodding to Travis here, but I'm also nodding back to you. And I'm saying thank you for giving us your energy, your time, your knowledge, and for helping Sean Evans create the curriculum that we're now using. And our first cohort graduates in June. So you want to talk about legacy, Camille? We do give Travis the credit he deserves, Camille, but I'm nodding at you right now and saying thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm trying to get better at accepting, the accolades and the cheers, and I'm going to just accept that and say thank you. But I'm also going to counter that with, I'm grateful for you going through the program and going through the circular movement of that framework and continually grabbing somebody else and grabbing another individual and doing it over and over again with them. Because when I've called you, you answer and you don't say, oh, not really sure. Give me the dates. Let me figure it out. I got you. And you're there. And you don't just check the box. Like I like to say, you don't just check the box and say, I did it and I showed up and I'm done. But it's great to hear these cohorts that move through and mention you, because you're keeping in touch with them and you're celebrating them and their wins. And that's what it's about. That is what it is about in their service and all the things that they're growing in, and just reminding them of the lessons learned. And they're pulling more people up, just like you're continuing to hold on to them. So thank you, Rooster.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I should say thanks, Joe, because we're doing a lot of thank you. Thanks, Joe.
I just work here.
Thanks for being you, Joe.
No, that dude, that he can say he just works here, and that's whatever. I'll let him say it. But that's bullshit. Because
Much more than that, though.
God, dude, like the story, and you got to go back and listen to episode 1, listeners, if you want to hear about the bromance that was how Joe and Rooster came to be. But like, you want to talk about somebody showing up, Camille. You said when I call on you and I ask you, you don't just show up, you show up.
Yeah.
And you're right, because I'm going to invest all my energy into this. And from the moment Joe said, put me in, coach, or I'm here to play, like all in, like all the way in. And there's something to that. And people use the word authentic, and they use like, be invested and all these words. It's, dude, there's a lot of there. But anyway, Joe, what's on your mind?
Thank you.
Well, gratitude.
Just,
Camille could talk about gratitude. Camille could talk about gratitude all day, and I'm cutting you off here. I'm sorry. I just want to say Camille leads with gratitude. She's fueled by gratitude. I've read that somewhere. All right, go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I mean all the connections between Travis Manion, Ainsley's Angels, educators, Marines. I mean, you name it. It's crazy. Ainsley being born at Lejeune, Camille graduating from Lejeune, her daughter being born there. My second question that I had from a while ago was, you mentioned it, and I forgot. I should have wrote it down. How many students were in your graduating class from Lejeune?
I think somewhere between 76, 78. Don't remember. I graduated in 98.
I remember hearing an 8. A friend of ours, Laura and Kevin, their oldest daughter graduates this year from Lejeune High with 68. And I was like, well, I heard an 8. I was like, no, it's not the same number. But then maybe it's just the max that they shove them in. But
we were more than 68 though. We got them beat. Yeah, we're doing it. It's still small though. It's small, but a mighty school, and a really great school, and it does what it's intended to do for those babies that live on that base, especially.
Yeah,
so I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that Travis Manion also was born on Camp Lejeune. So
Boom.
Connections.
Connections.
They're never ending.
Even going to the Naval Academy, my father graduated from the Naval Academy. Like there's so many intersections within this organization and Travis and the community and the things I experience. It's just countless. I think we could just all find something where we can connect to the organization. We could connect to Travis, even if it's 6 degrees of separation. It's there.
Yeah. Joe, I don't know how we're doing on time because I've lost complete spatial awareness for everything.
It's time then.
So with that, Joe, what would you like to say before we hand the microphone over to Camille to take us home with some thoughts?
Just thankful for you as a friend, a board member, and a human being. You're a special person, and thank you for that. And I want to know, behind you is a map of the world, and it's got all positive things. It looks like peace, smile, brave. But above it, all I can see is days. I'm assuming it says no bad days.
It says no bad days.
No bad days.
It's radiate happiness and good vibes only, no bad days. And then this map that is all the continents has positive different phrases and or adjectives: love, good, happy, be amazing, hope, good, smile, peace, believe in yourself. It's what we should all feel on a regular basis.
I used to think the no bad days was a gimmick, but I heard it, I think, from Ryan Clark, ESPN analyst, graduated from LSU, football player. But he said, I don't have bad days. He said, I'll have a bad morning or a bad workout or maybe a bad this. He's like, I don't have bad days. I don't allow it. And like, man, I was having a bad morning, just I was running out of time for everything, it seemed like. And I was like, stop, calm down, get some cold water. And then, so now we're back on track. So, and that's been probably within the last 6 months 8 months maybe, that I thought like the no bad days, that's not a gimmick. You just can't allow it. Otherwise, You'll have them all the time.
Yeah. It's piggyback on that. It's no bad days. And yes, it can feel very gimmicky, but my something my mom put in me, which I now share with others, is you can have a pity party, but you get 3 minutes. Figure out the 3 minutes and how you want to have your pity party. You want to throw something against the wall, you want to scream, you want to yell, you want to cry, you want to cuss, you want to push, I don't know, whatever you want to break something, great. 3 minutes, and then you get to reset, because now it's about how to move forward from whatever it is that annoyed you.
It's the Jocko, right? The famous seal. He's got that video good that, like, when I watch it, I feel like I could like run through a wall, where it's like, you didn't get the job, good. Figure out why. You didn't get the best, good. And that's a 3 minute. I think it's about 3 minutes pity party video of just going good. And then
No, I haven't seen it. Jocko was on our year one.
Yeah.
He was our first speaker, year one with cohort 1. And so I, obviously I'm familiar with him, but I've not seen that video, but it's the truth. Figure it out. Because now, we can complain all day. What did we do after that? We have no solution. We have no idea how we're moving the ball forward now. We're just mad for what?
Yeah. Wasting time. Yeah.
Absolutely.
At that point.
Thanks, Joe.
Hey, Camille, before we give you the closeout microphone here, if there's a veteran or a family member of the family of the fallen, and they're interested in this Spartan Leadership Program, what's the best way for them to learn more about that?
Yeah, I like this question. So first and foremost, the Spartan Leadership Program takes applications every fall, usually beginning of October. You can go to the travismanion.org site, and you can actually join the mission. That's what I tell anybody to do. If you're not a part of the organization already, join the mission first. What happens when you join the mission is you're going to fill out your little nifty little information and all the good things. And then one of our regional managers in your area is going to reach out and see how they can get you involved, because everybody wants to be in the program, but let's get you, engaged with other things we're doing. So when it's time to apply for the program, you are just well informed and in doubt, ready to do the next thing. So join the mission. Let's say you've joined the mission. Let's say you're already active and you're engaged. Guess what? Go to travismanion.org, click on the little hamburger dial, the menu, I believe, click it and ask about click on the programming. Off to the left, it'll say Spartan Leadership Program. Click that, read about it. Read all about the Spartan Leadership Program. Look at the frequently asked questions, and come October 1 for sure. October 1 for sure, you will be able to click a link that says apply now for the 2025 Spartan Leadership Program. And that'll be cohort 7.
Yes, that's awesome. 7 cohorts. Wow. And Joe, obviously awesome things happening in October with TMF opening up applications for that. Isn't there something else that happens in October?
Yes, there is. It's the Marine Corps Marathon, and Travis Manion has a very large presence there, as do we. And last year the partnership grew between the Spartans and the Angels, right? And we had some folks pushing Angels and tents right next to each other, so it's black and gold, black and silver, black and white on one side, and then pink and black right next to each other, and we're just sharing the legacy of Travis and Ainsley and the connecting, as we've mentioned a lot of times, and figuring out how to do good things in our communities across the nation between the two organizations. So if you're a Spartan and you're listening to this, or you're an Angel and you're listening to this, and you want to run or roll in the Marine Corps Marathon, email Joe at Ainsley Angels, and we'll make it happen one way or another between the two organizations.
Please make it happen. Beautiful. Let's roll or run. This is two beautiful organizations uniting. This is my shirt. If not me, then who? Let's unite. Let's keep uniting and building and growing this community of
I love it, Camille.
No barriers, baby. Let's go.
No barriers. I mean, my project as part of SLP was bridge the gap between TMF and Ainsley's Angels, and we did that with the 9/11. We did it with the 9/11 Heroes Run. We're doing it with the Marine Corps Marathon, and it is demonstrating to the world that nonprofits can work together. It just takes work, energy, and a common understanding, common goals. Camille, Dr. Minor, my friend, I am so damn grateful to have spent this afternoon with you. I am just your hugest fan, your biggest fan. I mean, maybe your daughter's a bigger fan, and maybe Carmen. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention your sister Carmen. But
I bring everybody in, and everybody's like, "I love them. They're so great." I'm like, "It's my family. That's fine."
Yeah. Yeah, huge fan. So with that said, what do you want to leave the listeners with? No pressure. This is your final word of the podcast. This is what they're going to remember the whole rest of the day. Like I said, no pressure. What do you want to leave our listeners with, Dr. Minor?
I am going to leave them with a quote that is it's on one of my Gmail signatures. It is a quote that my father sent in a card to me before I graduated with my doctorate. And it is, what would you attempt to do if you knew you could not fail? And it's a quote by Robert Schuller. And I want people to think about that quote. What would you attempt to do if you knew you could not fail? Just think about it. I'm not going to even respond to it and how you would, but that applies to all aspects of things in your life that we sometimes are scared or worried or assume we can't do. But what would you attempt to do if you knew you could not fail? If failure wasn't even an option. Robert Schuller. That's what I'm going to leave you with. And I just want to say thanks for having me on here. I'm glad I got the space and the grace I needed until I was ready. And it's been a blast. Like I said, if it was after hours, I'd have a real drink in my hand because we've been cutting up.
You know what? I got enough.
He's in charge.
We're done. This was good.
Yeah, we're done here. The structure of this building has reached its capacity.
Find your people, and if they make you feel sexy, even better.
What would you attempt to do if you knew you couldn't fail? There's nothing you wouldn't attempt. You would try
But
it all.
I guess that's where I got like my brain gets like freaking cobwebs, because then I'm like, at what point now are you attempting too many things and you can't do them all?
That's not
But
the,
you can't- I
that
know
wasn't the question. That wasn't the question. Is not the question isn't about how many things you would attempt. It says, what would you attempt to do if you knew you could not fail?
Yeah.
Because it's really, if you go back, it's really just touching inside the heart of us, all of us, of the things that we have thought about doing and maybe actively either have made an excuse because we don't have the time, or we're not in the shape, or we're too old, or nobody would, nobody in my group would understand. Like all these things that we allow to like disturb our mind on attempting something. But if we knew we wouldn't fail, would we do it? The answer should be yes. And that came in the middle of my programming, because you just, that doctorate is a beast. And you just don't, like people always say, would you do it again? No, I would not. I would not do it again. And I say it very clearly and very peacefully, but once you're in it, you're in it. So the girl in me, the strength of the military daughter and all the things that my parents and my mom, the put on me it stayed with me to say, hey, you gonna finish this fight? Or you gonna quit? And we don't have, there's no quitters in my family. Like that's not even acceptable. So he said that because I was at that moment where it's like, you don't know if you won't fail until you try. So I had to keep trying. I did. Child, I did.
I know 4 people that are pretty close to me.
I did.
That that have, or like within the next couple months will have their doctorate. And 3 of those 4 asked me, like, would you ever do it? And the answer is no, because I just watched them go through this struggle, and especially now there's no chance. I don't have the time to do that. But I always said it would be cool to be called Dr. J. It'd be kind of cool.
Just get you an honorary one. We're just gonna get you an honorary one. Just get you one of those.
Yeah, like
certificate on the wall.
Master Joe. Master J doesn't sound as cool as Dr. J.
Gee, things I never thought I'd hear Joe say. It'd be pretty cool to be called Dr. J. What? No, wow, dude. Hey, me and Camille can make that happen, Dr. J.
I'm just saying,
Yeah, but that's like, I don't know, like an impersonation or like
Dr.
stolen
Phil.
valor or something. I don't know.